Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're taking a pretty fascinating journey right behind the kitchen doors to uncover the meticulous scientific systems that keep our foods safe, from the massive factory floors all the way to your favorite local restaurant table. If you've ever wanted to know exactly how the food industry prevents disaster on a huge scale, well, you are definitely in the right place.
So, let's kick things off with a quick scenario. How exactly does your favorite restaurant guarantee that your meal is perfectly safe to eat every single time you visit? I mean, it's not just good luck, and it goes way beyond basic hand washing. Behind the scenes, it actually relies on a highly structured, rigorously tested system that's designed to catch hazards long before they ever reach your plate.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 1. Foundations of safe food, 2. The 7 HACCP principles, 3. The retail food challenge, 4. The process approach explained, and 5. Navigating the danger zone.
Section 1. Foundation of Safe Food, Mapping the Journey.
Before we can even think about applying advanced safety principles, we have to clearly identify the exact steps involved in HACCP implementation for a specific retail establishment. The very first, absolutely non-negotiable step is establishing a process flow diagram and then verifying it on-site. The safety team literally has to physically walk through the operation to make sure their diagram is 100% accurate. Why? Because the scope of this map has to cover every single step that is directly under the control of the establishment. You simply cannot control a hazard if you don't even realize a specific preparation step is happening in your kitchen, right? Once we have this detailed map, we're finally ready to deploy the actual defense system.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 7 HACCP principles, the defense mechanism.
Now, these 7 principles, they are the gold standard of proactive, science-based food defense. It basically reads like a sequence of fail-safes. First off, you conduct a hazard analysis to figure out what could go wrong. Second, you identify critical control points, or CCPs. These are the absolute must-control steps to prevent that hazard. Third, you establish critical limits. For example, the FDA sets a really strict limit of 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds when you're cooking stuffed meat. Fourth, you monitor those CCPs daily. Fifth, if a limit fails, you execute pre-planned corrective actions immediately. Sixth is verification, which is auditing the system to prove it actually works. And finally, record keeping, providing objective evidence of the whole shebang. The crucial takeaway here is that this isn't just a simple checklist, it's a continuous, self-correcting loop of safety. But when we try to apply this outside of a highly controlled factory environment, we hit a pretty massive speed bump.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Retail Food Challenge, Chaos versus Control.
Here's the thing. Originally, HACCP was designed for food manufacturing. Picture this, a huge, highly controlled factory floor with a singular focus, say producing millions of identical cans of soup. Now, contrast that tightly controlled environment with retail and food service. In a typical restaurant, you're dealing with a highly diversified workforce, ranging from seasoned executive chefs to entry-level line cooks. You've got incredibly variable processes, constantly changing menus, and totally different ingredients arriving daily. It is, for lack of a better term, controlled chaos.
Because of all that chaos, trying to slap a rigid, product-specific manufacturing plan onto a retail environment is practically impossible. The immense scale and sheer variety of the retail food industry desperately requires a much more flexible solution if we want to maintain safety without completely grinding operations to a halt.
Just think about the sheer variety of businesses that fall under the umbrella of retail and food service. We're talking about everything from your local school canteens and corner bakeries to massive busy casino kitchens, mobile food carts, and even temporary outdoor events. Trying to develop a unique, traditional HACCP plan for every single menu item across all these wildly different environments, that would be an endless, impossible task. So how on earth do we solve this?
Let's dive into Section 4, the process approach explained, a new perspective.
Well, the FDA developed an absolutely ingenious workaround, specifically for grocery stores, restaurants, and other retail operations. It's called the process approach. Instead of staring at a massive menu and analyzing the chicken parmesan totally separate from the spaghetti bolognese, you group foods together based on how they actually flow through the kitchen. You divide hundreds of specific food items into broad categories based on their preparation stages. This is a real game changer because it allows managers to successfully apply the HACCP system to analyze complex operations and place controls on those broader groupings rather than individual recipes. But that begs the question, how do we decide which foods belong in which group?
And finally, Section 5, Navigating the Danger Zone, Flow in Action.
To group these food flows effectively, we have to anchor them to one universal threat, and that is temperature. Specifically, the temperature danger zone, which sits exactly between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the precise temperature window where biological hazards, like really dangerous pathogens, thrive and multiply exponentially. Literally every single food safety plan in a restaurant revolves around minimizing the time food spends in this specific zone.
The process approach is perfectly visualized when we look at the danger zone. We actually categorize food preparation based entirely on the number of times the food passes through that critical 41 to 140 degree window. If you trace the flows, you'll find one path that just stays cold at the bottom. Another path shoots straight up through the zone exactly once, and a third, much more complicated path goes up, comes back down, and then goes up again.
So breaking it down, those paths represent our three main food preparation processes. Process 1 is no cook. Think of a fresh, crisp side salad. It's received, stored, and served cold, meaning it makes 0 trips through the danger zone. Process 2 is preparation for same-day service, like a freshly grilled hamburger. It starts cold, gets cooked hot, and is served immediately to you. That is exactly 1 trip up through the danger zone. And finally, process 3 is complex food preparation, like making a giant batch of gravy. It's cooked hot, cooled down for storage, and then reheated the next day for service. That means it makes 2 or more complete trips through the danger zone.
Seeing these flows side by side really drives home exactly why developing a HACCP plan in accordance to the food production flow is so absolutely crucial. Process 1 has no step to destroy pathogens, so the control is all about just keeping it cold. Simple enough. Process 2 introduces a cook step, which becomes a critical control point. But then look at process 3. You are cooking, cooling, reheating, and hot holding. Every single time you transition temperatures like that, you introduce significant risk. This means a complex food flow requires far more rigorous monitoring and record keeping than a simple same-day service flow. By analyzing their operations this way, restaurants can actually manage the chaos and keep you safe.
So we've essentially decoded the hidden architecture of retail food safety, moving from rigid, factory-style rules to these really flexible, flow-based controls. Next time you sit down at your favorite restaurant and look at the menu, ask yourself, how many trips through the danger zone did your meal actually take to get to you? Was it a simple process 1 or a highly monitored process 3? Understanding this completely changes how you look at the food industry. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your curiosity sharp, and I'll catch you next time.